come out of recess.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's go back to the mooring discussion. Josh,
Okay.
what can we do for you?
So one of the ways we are able to teach our young men and young women, we have more women, by the way, than men, these skills to work with people in wheelchairs or for these people with autism to get employment, is to teach them how to sail. We use that sailing with autism as our mechanism for life experience. And the Board of Trustees has been gracious to give us 2 moorings. I was asked 3 years ago, said, Josh, don't you think you need 3 moorings? And I should have said yes. I should have asked for 3 moorings. And you guys let us have 3 moorings at no charge in North Sea Harbor. And I'm asking for that again.
You're asking for 2 or 3?
3 this time, yeah. I should have said yes when you guys offered the 3 years ago. And I said, no, we only need 2. And I was mistaken. So that's the request.
Not all this has been a great relationship. There's been some bumps in the road. Didn't you just receive a summons for the Bay Constables?
Yes.
Which will have to come here and speak about it.
Yep. So that I can address that. We had 2 moorings, not 3.
Right.
I thought I could put any boat on that mooring. I was very sadly mistaken. You have to have the mooring that's specified for that boat with that boat on that mooring.
Correct.
And my fault. I'm totally guilty. I did not realize that you had to have the specific boat on a specific
Bruce,
mooring.
I would ask you to move on from this point since that matter is currently in Justice Court.
Okay. Well, there's a few other points I got.
Yeah, something that's not in Justice Court is certainly germane to this.
I know the moorings haven't been taken out on time. The boats have been on the mooring too long. I know there was a problem in earlier years with the charter. I don't know if you guys are still trained. You're not trained. I know there's a problem with the training.
No, we are chartered. We are fully chartered.
Okay, and you're trained.
We're continuous, yep, trained, and criminal background check, they do it every year, and
I think that's got to be included in any permit process, so the
Sure.
trustees can't be held liable.
of course, that's totally understandable, so we can give you a copy of our charter. Not a problem. I think we gave it to you last year, the last time we renewed the moorings as well.
Well, everybody, I just attended a veterans thing in Hampton Bays. A bunch of boat captains got together. They take the veterans out once a year,
Mhm.
and they're not looking for something for free. I also attended a board meeting where you were speaking to the town board, and you were telling the town board that you do charge some of the kids, and some of the ones that can't afford it, you give a scholarship to.
If you want, money-wise, I put in, for example, this year, my wife and I paid the entire $1,203 for everybody. So not a single child actually paid this past year. But I have asked, and that's normal. As you know, you were a scout leader, I think, also, and it's normal for a scout to pay their own way. I don't ask.
But-
I should, though, actually.
But me being involved with the scouts, we're not looking to get a free mooring for a boat that we use in many other aspects of life.
Well,
They use our building. It's one building that they use. They get use of it, and that comes with the charter. And we do help them out with other things. But as far as a boat that's being designated through a charter for the Sea Scouts, and you're using it for many other things, and you are charging some of the kids, as you already agreed to.
Well, actually, I just said I didn't charge the kids, but I should be charged. The children should be paying their own membership. So, for example, the Boy Scouts of America charges us $84 per
I know
scout.
you charge.
And so instead of me paying it myself with my wife, what I really should be saying to the parents or to the child or to the youth, look, if you can't afford it, I understand it, but you should be paying your own Boy Scout fee, $84 a year.
Who's your charter with now?
The Freemasons of Southampton Village here.
Why don't they pay it?
They've talked about it, but they haven't done it, and so I
Okay.
haven't asked, but they haven't offered. Some of the members of the lodge have said we would like to pay that, but they haven't written a check. That's fine. I'm not asking for it, but that would be a great thing if they did. But Bruce, your point is better in that we really need to get the youth, because I do believe that if the youth pay for themselves, not We're not asking the youth to pay for the boats. We're not asking for the youth to, the youth should be paying their own membership to be in the Boy Scouts of America. I think that's a very, unless you can't afford it. If you can't afford it, my wife and I are happy to pay it
Let's
ourselves.
stick to the aspects of.
A mooring.
It's a mooring discussion. We got a
Sorry.
room full of people here. I was
So-
trying to
Yes.
stay there.
So today, what you're asking for is the waiver of the fees for
Correct.
3
For 3 moorings, correct.
But we don't have to make a determination on that today.
No, we
It's
don't.
just an
The
ask,
the moorings,
so-
the moorings are expiring this year,
Right.
so I'm asking, when I renew the moorings, again, for another 3 years, that fee be waived.
All right,
Okay.
so we'll review those applications when they come in. I appreciate you coming down here and asking.
Great?
And
We don't
then
have any more
We'll
questions.
consult with the constables, and if we got anything more, as you submit your applications, we will get back with you.
Great.
Trustee Warner's not here, and
Right.
Or
Oh,
trustee-
by the way, if I could talk to Joseph, Mr. Lombardo, real quick. I did request 3 months ago, and I'm going to talk again to Stephanie, I believe, the woman who does the moorings, requested 3 months ago that our mooring that we got the summons on be changed from one to the other, but I still haven't heard
It's not
back.
Stephanie to respond.
no,
Nothing that I have any contact with or any input on.
Okay, so,
Anything in justice court would be the town attorney's office, Rich
Okay.
Harris, so.
all right.
it's a different ballgame, but
Yep.
we can deal with that at a later date, but make your applications. and
I'll do the
we know
applications, get
you-
all that in.
We know your deal.
Okay,
Appreciate you
great.
coming
Okay.
down.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Josh.
for having me.
All right, the next discussion on, which, you know what, I may ask the board if I could delay that discussion, because perhaps Trustee Warner will arrive, and I think that.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
You
he should-
should-
he should lead the discussion.
Yeah, we're all going to agreement with that. We're
Second.
going to set that aside.
Yep.
Let's work on some permit applications. James, you want to come up? I have William Gutman Jr., 15 Bayside Avenue, East Quogue. You want to come sit with the board? Remove existing 58-foot linear feet of damaged bulkhead, replace with 58 linear feet of vinyl bulkhead with capping. Remove 10-foot return and replace with a 16-foot return. All timbers to be non-treated, tropical timbers, raised bulkhead to meet northerly neighbor's height of approximately 6 inches. Kristen Trovich from Shoreline is the, bulkheading is the applicant, is the agent for the applicant. Not here.
Pretty straightforward bulkhead reconstruction. They did have a deck that they were proposing originally. We told them to bring down the size. They actually didn't get the permit from DC, so they removed it completely from the application.
So it's an approvable application at this point in time. We told them.
They're increasing the height to 6 inches, and that's to match the northerly neighbor. So it's all
So it does
non-treated
meet Blue
lumber.
Book. It meets Blue Book at this point in time, so it is an approvable, movable application.
For advancing it.
Well, let's see what the board says, but it can move.
I'm okay with this. What I was looking at was to make sure that there was a buffer that was being installed and to replace the stones that are there now. And there is a 10-foot
Yes,
buffer.
meets Blue Book. I'll put this all back together nice.
Yeah, okay.
I got it. Okay, the next one is a, we'll put that back together. The next.
Yes, sorry. Scott, you want to advance that?
Yeah, advance it, absolutely. Next one is a first renewal for the town of Southampton, 33 Bay Avenue, in-kind replacement of existing south-facing bulkhead, incorporate maintenance dredging to restore boat slip loss as a result of failing bulkhead and sedimentation, and replace deteriorated piles for the restored boat slip area. This is a project long time coming. We actually, it segues into one of our projects at Bay Avenue, so this one absolutely has to be advanced.
This is a first renewal?
Yes, this is for the town of Southampton.
Has anything changed?
Nothing's changed, it's just, just like our project got delayed, these things
Right.
get delayed.
Right.
Ours got delayed, we have the funding for it, but, we went through the permitting, and then really the best way to do this project was all aspects to be done at the same time. It saved the taxpayer a lot of money on mobilization costs. We could do our pier ramp, they could do their project. There's a part of it abuts a town road end,
What's it say about the buffer?
rotten bulkheads,
And
whatever the standard language is for
Okay.
our permit. It's a marina there for, for the town of Southampton, so it should be advanced.
Could I just see the language for the buffer for a second, because it is long now?
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I'm not seeing that it stipulates anything about buffer in this, and that would be important because it is long now. I realize it's a renewal, but
It's up to the board.
half the walkway is with sand, but the rest, the other half is grass. And we require everybody else, so we should require
Well, no,
this.
ours is sand or stone, right?
Well, this is grass.
Yeah, so they're gonna have to comply with, when they do the project, with our permit
so we
languages.
can do it in special conditions, right?
It's,
We can add that in special
If that's
conditions.
what the board wants, yeah.
I mean, it's, this is like a commercial type arena that the town of Southampton has. So I was going with the standard blue book issuance of the bulkhead.
We want the town to lead by example.
Well, we'll have to have a talk with the town on putting some plants in. I'm sure they won't, they want to do the right thing, the town does, and I don't think
So you
it's
got
a,
that special condition?
I don't think it's a terrible
Okay.
project,
Are you advancing that?
We can if,
I would,
if that's
I would
what the
advance
board
it, and we'll
wants.
have a conversation with Kristen Doulos about putting some beach grass there where they,
So come up
where
with
they
a
can.
language for a special
Yeah.
condition.
Okay.
Next one that we have is Reuben Jeffrey, first renewal, 37 Second Neck. 4 by 75-foot dock of entirely untreated wood, elevation to catwalk with open grate decking, 3 foot above grade ladder at seaward end of dock, no ramp or float are proposed. This is no changes, James?
No,
We got a new cover sheet.
No, this is just a name change. There was a name change, that's the new application. Just the name.
Name change.
Oh, they just put it into a trust. So it's the Jeffrey 2018 Family Trust. So being as there's no changes to the project, just the name. Take a look at that. Meets Blue Book, James?
yeah, it's a renewal.
Do you need to see that?
No, I'm good. It's a first renewal.
Are you
Okay.
advancing that, Scott?
Yes. The next one that we have is Round Dune Inc., 101 Dune Road, East Quogue, First Coastal. I see Aram Tuchunian
Pam, can you hand that down to Scott,
is
please?
here for the,
Is that the same that we all got, Lisa?
I'm not sure. James was handed it to me.
what is this? What is this that I have here, Aram?
James, the one that was...
That's the hard copy.
It's the same as ours, the rest of them?
Yes.
I think so, yes. Yes, Ann, it's the
Thank you.
same.
It was just submitted to us on Friday, that's why we did print copies first.
Okay, so this is for the Round Dune, which is in dire straits right now. Because of severe erosion that's been going on. I don't think anybody is in denial that we've been under attack by the Atlantic Ocean for quite some time now, and it's trying to deal a fatal blow to the Round Dune.
Well, thank you, Trustee Horowitz and members of the board. My name is Aram Tertunian, First Coastal Corporation, West Hampton Beach, New York, on behalf of the applicant, Round Dune, Inc. I'm joined this afternoon by the president of Round Dune, Mr. Michael Cates, and one of the trustees, Bonnie Shevins, sorry. and counsel to the Round Dune, Karen Hogue from Toomey, Latham, Shea, and two other names I can't remember. So first of all, I want to thank the board for putting us on today. I know it was a last-minute thing, and so as Trustee Horowitz pointed out, this is a pretty serious situation, and so we are very grateful that you took the time to hear us today. That being said, I'd just like to review the situation as it exists today with you. This is a 2018 aerial photo that's taken from the town GIS site, and I've put...
I think it's a little more important that we see it than you see it.
That's all right. We could get it so we can both see
How
it.
about that? Good?
Is that any better, Charlie?
Well, I'll turn it, I have another one I'll turn for you. How about this? I'll give you this one, and when I finish with this, I'll show it to you. So this is an aerial photo from the, this is a 2018 aerial photo from the GIS, and I put two red dashed lines on it. One is where the toe of the dune was at the date of this photo, which is March 2018. It's also where the toe of the dune was in September of this past year, just a couple of months ago. And the second red line, approximately 50 feet back, is right at the very face of the building. And all of that change occurred within the last month. Almost 90% of it occurred in two storms, the 10th through the 12th of October, and a following nor'easter the month after that, the week after that. Since then, there's been additional gradual erosion. The embankment itself is collapsing, but I'll show that to you in a second. Here, so the public can see that. These are some aerial drone shots that we took just about a month ago. The date's right here, 10/21. Situation has gotten a little more severe even since then. You can see that the pilings in the front holding up these decks are exposed, and in fact the pilings for the building itself are exposed as well. So, and you can see that although on this nice sunny day the high water line was out here some 30 feet away, the high water and in fact waves have been against this dune pretty much 50% of the time since this was taken approximately a month ago. This is a very serious situation for a couple of different reasons. I'll just show you a close-up of this. Take that down. In this particular photo, which is a little bit closer up, and a little bit higher up, you can see that on this building as well. I mean, this deck out here was formerly connected with a walkway which has collapsed, and the deck itself is under pretty significant wave attack right now. So, as you can see from this photo and from the previous ones, there's nowhere else on the site that anything can be moved to, and moving these buildings is incredibly problematic. These were built in the very early 1960s. And we have no construction records that tell us how deep these pilings are. Plus, based upon the construction methods that were available in the early 60s, it's very unlikely that they're buried to FEMA depth. What we don't want to do is find out exactly how deep they're not buried. And that's why we're in front of you today, is to ask you for emergency relief to protect these buildings. So this board issued last year, right around this time, a permit to Round Dune which I will hand up copies of. This is a permit that was issued last year right around this time, and this was for 2,000 cubic yards of sand, planting of Cape American beach grass, and the use of sandbags, temporary sandbags as necessary to protect structures. Here's another copy. Oh, you have enough?
Okay.
2, 3, 4?
I'm gonna pass these down, please. Could you?
No, you'll need this. How many do you have there?
I'm not sure.
2, 3, 4, 5?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. So this permit is actually good until the 10th of next month, and instead of renewing this permit and going forward, we've developed a what we believe is a a better protection scheme in the sense of this permit says temporary sandbags as necessary to protect structures. Your traditional 80-pound sandbag is not going to be able to protect this structure. In order to protect this structure, we're going to have to do something that will be able to withstand waves of the Atlantic Ocean hitting it repeatedly over the next few months of this winter. I mean, we're now at the end of November. We've got at least 4 more months of northeast storms. And it's a very real possibility that these buildings could collapse between today and the end of the storm season. So what we're requesting is to use geocubes that extend across the 2 structures with returns on each side. And we have a cross-section right up here. This would be 2 cubes deep and 4 cubes high. So there's 8 cubes per unit of shoreline. And they occupy a fairly small footprint. The cubes themselves only occupy about 3 feet each, so 2 deep is about 6 feet. But we place them in a tiered structure so that it altogether takes up 8 to 10 feet of shoreline. This is a lot less than any other alternative. And so what are the alternatives? Well, alternative one is we could just place more sand. Well, Round Dune has placed, last year placed $70,000 worth of sand to protect this stretch of shoreline. Not only did they lose all that sand, they lost 50 feet of dune. So I don't think it's reasonable to think that placing any volume of sand in front of this 350 feet is going to be able to protect these structures over the winter. Another alternative, I'm sorry.
That would have to be a massive Army Corps project, is the only thing that's going to perhaps stem the tide,
Right,
so to speak.
and that's in the works. And so the object here, if you think of this like medical triage, we need to keep this patient alive long enough for the Army Corps project, which is in the works, and which the town will actually be a partner in.
So this is temporary.
This is a temporary interim structure, exactly.
Can you put sand behind it too?
Well, these will, yes, to some degree, but they're going to be stacked as close to the toe of the dune as we can possibly put them. So, the other alternative is to use rock, which I don't want to use because A, it's not going to be as effective. B, it's a lot more difficult to remove. C, it doesn't look very good. Or some type of sheeting, whether it's PVC or steel or something like that. And that has similar issues with it. This is a structure which we have used recently. I'll put this right here for now. So this is the Quag Village Beach. Now these geocubes were installed in 2011 after Irene, and they actually survived Sandy. The village came back in and covered these cubes over with the dune after Sandy, and this is the first time since Sandy they've been uncovered. But the thing I want to point out to you is that in this photo on the left, you can see that the wave action is coming right up to the toe of the structure during the storm action. In fact, we have videos we can show you that show actual wave impact against it for multiple tides. But as soon as the storm subsides, and you can see this is 10:17, this is 11:13, there is a wide beach here that's available for access. So the use of these structures does not preclude access. In fact, during a storm, there's no access for anyone. If the water is banging against the toe of the dune, nobody can go there. You can't drive a vehicle, you can't even walk. After the storm subsides, you can see the beach has rebuilt in front of it, sufficient that there is access along the beach. And I can tell you I've driven this section of beach myself, and probably others in this room have as well.
I think it's important that you address that because there's been a lot of commentary against hardening structures on Ocean Beach and other areas.
Yeah.
So I think that you need to address the fact that having the widest beach for public access in combination with whatever it is that we're doing to save the private property here, or try and stem the tide, triage as you said. I think it's important to address that.
So, I really wanted you to see this photo and, go down to the Village Beach and, take a look at it for yourself. But, and call the mayor, who's been dealing with this situation, since October, just like the private owners have. There is a public beach. It is accessible. It's not accessible to anyone during the storm in any stretch of the shoreline, but here, after the storm subsides, there is a beach, there is access, you can walk, you can drive. And so the use of the structure in and of itself does not preclude access to the beach.
And how many years have they been there?
Since 11, so 8 years.
Now, what went wrong in Montauk? Why them tubes they installed didn't last?
Oh, they're doing great. In Montauk, they're buried under the dune.
I know they buried them again.
And they stayed buried through all these storms. So while we're having these troubles here in Montauk, what they did was they brought in 200,000 yards of sand and covered them over 3 times. And as they say, third time is the charm. They finally brought enough sand over a mile of beach. So in Montauk, downtown Montauk, that's a 6,000-foot long project. And so they brought in 200,000 cubic yards of sand in 3 different salvos, if you will. And that has stabilized the situation in Montauk. But again, that's 6,000 feet of beach, and that's 200,000 yards of sand. This is 350 feet of beach. And I think it's important to talk about beach restoration because, as I said, the Fire Island to Montauk project, the so-called FIMP project, is actually in the Army Corps of Engineers headquarters in Washington right now for approval by the Chief of Engineers. That project participation agreement, so-called PPA, is due to be released to the state and to the town in May or June of 2020. And that agreement the town will actually become a signatory to that project. And what will happen in this particular area is that the Army Corps has designed this for a dune that's 14 feet high, 25 feet wide at the crest, slopes 1-on-5 to the ocean, and then a 90-foot wide beach that then slopes at 1-on-20 down to high water, low water until it intercepts the natural grade. So the object here is by 2021 to have built a beach to the Army Corps standards that's going to extend from approximately Road K all the way through about 1,500 feet into the village of Quogue, which is about 3.5 or 4 miles. But that's the kind of project that's going to, give a real long-term solution. What we're asking for here is a temporary interim solution, and what we're asking is to advance this from the work session today to the full board meeting next Monday for approval by this board. And Mr. Cates, if you have a moment, would you come up and please address the board?
Why are you sitting there? What are you doing with the deck that's sitting out in the ocean?
For right now, nothing, because it's just too dangerous to work on it. We have to, I don't expect this beach to stabilize for months, and when it does, then we'll get some engineers in there to look at it to see if it has to be removed or if it can be salvaged in some form.
Well, if it's blocking the trustee's easement, that's going to be an issue because we can't have an unsafe situation that could fall on somebody, or we can't be blocking the trustee's easement. So we're all going to have to be hands on deck when we hit that point in time.
I think that's a really good point because the alternative of doing nothing here means that these buildings end up in the trustees.
Well, I'd be more worried about safety. Some of the kids jumping on that deck and trying to jump in the ocean.
That's a
It's
reasonable
a
concern.
definite public safety issue. Yeah.
We recognize that responsibility. We know it's our responsibility to get it down, and we're planning to do that. Michael Cates, I'm a resident of Round Dune the past 7 years, and this is a community of 76 units in those 4 buildings, up since 1960. The Snell family built it. These are not what I would call upper income residents, myself included. It's a very varied group of people. A lot of retirees, a lot of young families all of a sudden. It's got a new wave. We are vital, I think, to this community. It's a 6-month community. We shut it down after 6 months. So it's more than a summer. It's a spring and it's a fall and a summer. And we are committed to the community. We love it, and it's important that we preserve it. This is a crisis. I became president 3 years ago and didn't realize that although I was aware of global warming and the problems of being on the shore, I never thought that after spending $70,000 last year, losing it all and being faced with this kind of a crisis. And our best effort has been made to deal with Aram and First Coastal, and they're telling us this is the way to go, and as a consequence, we've assessed our owners in excess of $400,000 of new money to try and get through this crisis. And we recognize that it's an emergency and a temporary matter, but we also recognize it's the only choice we have. And we hope that we can have your support. Thank you.
Anybody else in the public like to? That's here.
Any other questions from the board? No, well, we seek your indulgence to advance this to Monday's meeting.
So where are you gonna put the fence? Is it just like we do on the ocean, right in front of the geotubes?
Yeah. It's cubes, yeah.
So if you had to make an estimate, let's say low tide, perfect scenario, how much beach would there be to get a vehicle by there?
At low tide?
Yeah.
Oh, I would say almost 50 feet.
And high tide?
At high tide, on a sunny day, I think there's 15 or 20 feet. Because we're going to, as I said, we want to go, because we don't want to be out on the beach. We want to be as far back as possible, and you can see we're just snugging on the diagram. We're just snugging right up to the foundation of the building. I mean, ordinarily, we would want to be 15 or 20 feet in front of that. In this case, we're opting to move as far back as possible.
I mean, they went through $70,000 worth of sand last year, right? This endeavor is going to be, how much he said he assessed, $400,000?
Right.
You know, the North Atlantic's not going to ease up. So the bottom line is, this has to be remedied.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, yeah, again, we just want to keep the patient alive until we can get this project from the Army Corps, which is by the way, authorized by the 1960 River and Harbors Act, and hopefully coming to fruition this in 2021. So almost the same year that Round Dune was built, the project to build the beach was authorized by Congress, and here we are, 60 years in the future.
And what do you think?
You mentioned in the beginning of your presentation that it was not possible to consider retreat for these buildings. Have you done any engineering or what can back that up?
So there's two things, I think. One is time. So right now, we're at the whim and mercy of the Atlantic Ocean. So to undertake the proper engineering and to properly go out and cost a project like this for relocation of the building will take months, which is simply time we don't have. So from a time perspective, relocation does not fit the emergency.
Do you have other approvals, Aaron?
We do not. We are going to be filing. One of the things is that the Board of Trustees does not have emergency protocol in the Blue Book. Everything comes to you. The town of Southampton and the DEC both have emergency protocols. We will be filing with them this week. The preliminary discussions with the DEC are that this meets all of their criteria for emergency work. They've established a series of criteria. For example, when the dune itself has been compromised such that the erosion has passed the crest of the dune, and therefore it's no longer functioning as a natural protective feature, and when the foundation of the building or other infrastructure are at risk, then they will issue these permits. They've issued dozens of them to us in the past. The town of Southampton likewise has similar criteria. The state has a 2-day turnaround time, and the town has a 5-day turnaround time. So I came to you first because you don't have any emergency procedures. But if you look at this, and to get to your question,
We call special meetings.
Right.
That's what we do.
Well,
We have-
and you
we have an
accommodated us
emergency.
to be here today,
Right.
for which we are very
Right,
grateful.
we accommodate or we call special meetings to convene the board. We
Right.
can move quickly. Yeah, we can
Yeah.
move quickly.
But, yes, exactly. If you look at this, here you have the parking, here you have 2 buildings, a pool, and then these other 2 buildings. So the question is, how, both these buildings would have to be moved. And there's really, just at first glance, there's nowhere on the site to accommodate these 2 buildings without demolishing the pool and moving everything back. This is a multi-million-dollar project that will take, I would say, if you were committed to it today, it wouldn't happen for 2 years.
Yeah, I would say years.
I understand that it's a long-term project, but what I'm looking at is, this was built in the 1960s. If you look at all the other properties, all of them are significantly set back from the crest of the dune where both these properties are located. And I just think in terms of the big picture for this, you can't count on FIMP of course, it's going to happen at some point, but I think you have to consider
Well, I think
the
that's,
movement and the retreat of these buildings.
I think we can consider that. I don't think we can consider it in an
the
emergency
But
timeframe.
I think that needs to be part of the discussion.
Well, it certainly can be part of the discussion post-emergency. I think to put that, to force that conversation into an emergency conversation,
Well, I just think the creating of the awareness of it and the discussion of it at this point is important. My other question is the geocubes. What is the time frame that you're asking for the installation of them and the removal?
so the timeframe is tied to the FIMP project. So with the state, that's not really a problem. They have done that in the past. They've just recently reissued us a series of permits to private properties in the village of Quogue for cubes, and their conditions are you got to keep them covered, and if and when a federal project comes in, if they're in the way, they have to be removed. With the town of Southampton, it's a little bit different because they have a 6-month limit on the time frame. And in the interest of full transparency, we are going to file an application with the ZBA and say, really should tie the time frame of removal to the implementation of FIMP, which is scheduled for 2021. That's our plan. I mean, cards on the table. We're not hiding anything.
Well, obviously, you're going to want to protect those structures until one or the other happens. Either you work out engineering that makes more sense to the property owners, or there's a massive wide beach there, and this is no longer an emergency.
This installation gives us the time to make those considered decisions. Absent this installation, we're just left to the mercy of the ocean, which is merciless.
Then that will all be sitting in the trustee's easement. It'll just be debris everywhere and a major loss of property and values and public safety issues.
And I'm not asking for a decision today. I'm merely asking to put forward to the full board meeting where we can have more of a discussion, should you have other questions.
In the meantime, would you consider a time frame for the installation and removal of the geocubes, taking into consideration the fact that the sand moves to offshore and creates a winter bar, and therefore they would be protected if they were permitted. They would serve to protect for the winter season and then be removed in the spring.
I certainly will review that. That's not my ask, but I will definitely review that between now and the Monday meeting.
Well, looking at that picture, it does look like you have a little room for retreat. That might happen at a different time with those 2 buildings. I don't have a problem with this. I'm not pro hard structures by no means on the ocean, or blocking of any easement with any type of geotubes, sand fence, whatever. Because that's what we're here for, to promote. We're also here to protect. And if the ocean is going to break through, it's going to wind up on that road again. So I don't think you have an alternative. And hopefully this gets you through the winter months.
That's the hope.
It's a big problem. We're gonna need Army Corps intervention. There's no two ways about it. The entire coastline here is under siege, right? We've had problems everywhere. We need to all work together. That's really what we need to do.
The other thing to consider in the time between now and Monday, if the geocubes were not to be permitted, a replacement of sand and how much and in what capacity and when would be the other thing to look at.
Sure, we can evaluate that.
President Warner has arrived.
Give him the gavel.
I'm gonna give him the gavel. I'm going to Disney World.
Do you want to do a quick?
A quick recap,
Catch up?
sure. I'd be happy to welcome President Warner. Thank you and the board for having us at the meeting today. I know I called you Friday afternoon, and you were generous enough to accommodate us. This is a 2018 aerial photo of the Round Dune site where I've indicated how much retreat they've had since September. It's about 50 feet, and the water is right up against the toe of the building. These are a couple of aerial photographs that were taken approximately a month ago. The situation has gotten a little bit worse since then. You can see the pilings for the decking are fully exposed, and the pilings for the building itself are being exposed as well. You can see that right in this photo right in here. These pilings right at the face of that building are being exposed. Our proposal is to do a temporary geocube installation, which would be snugged up right, in this case, a little bit right at the edge of the deck, and here just a little bit seaward, only because that's where the toe of the dune is. And these would be 2 deep and 4 high, so 8 cubes per unit. And I produced for the board to review that this is an installation in the village of Quogue that was installed in 2011. And this is very effective at protecting the development during the storm event. You can see the waves are running all the way up to there, and you have 4 rows exposed. But when the beach recovers just a couple of feet, you have a wide beach that's passable for both pedestrian and vehicular traffic. A couple of things that Trustee Welker brought up, she would like an evaluation of relocation of the buildings, as well as an evaluation of a sand only as an alternative. Did I miss anything?
The time frame for
And the
geocubes.
time frame for installation and removal. As I explained, our current time frame is to marry the removal of these cubes to the installation of the FIMP project in 2021. And Trustee Welker has asked me to review that timeline in lieu of doing something now for removal in the spring, for 6 months or something like that.
So your concern is obviously future storms will be pounded up against the foundation of that structure.
Well, I go through this often, here's the rationale. You put these in, and this summer we get a nice summer recovery beach. Everything looks great. It's July, it's August, beach looks terrific, everything looks fine. Well, we know that the $70,000 worth of sand they put in last year disappeared, and 50 feet of dune disappeared in the course of 2 days. So if you put it in today and you took it out in 6 months, and then a storm came next October and threatened the foundation again, you'd come put it in again because we'd be eligible again. But this is a project that's going to cost $400,000 plus or minus. So to put it in and then take it out, just so you would put it in again because an emergency occurs again, I don't think that's practical. I understand the concept of temporary, but I also understand the concept of that's an awful lot of money to spend to put something in and to take it out when this emergency condition, absent a major beach restoration, is something that that we should anticipate is going to occur
So,
again.
so you, as a coastal geologist to the town, right, very experienced in this, basically what I'm understanding from you is that your view on this application is that until the Army Corps of Engineers and everybody completes this FIP project, this Fire Island to Montauk Giant Beach Restoration, our whole area is going to be in an emergency situation under assault. That's what I'm understanding from the discussion.
That's correct, and just go down to Shinnecock Inlet, where the town and the county and the state have just spent the last 4 weeks, holding the line.
So the temporary is like in a snapshot of time over a larger time in history versus just a smaller amount of time. And so
Yes,
we get
but-
that really.
Could you put back the aerial, please? So what I'm concerned about is geocubes go in for the, how long?
350 feet of shoreline.
350 feet of shoreline. You have littoral drift, which will carve away, and you'll have the erosive scour that will affect the dune, the primary dune for the neighboring properties to the west. And I don't know, man.
Well, listen, yeah, it's a hard decision. Yeah, that's why we're here. So let's weigh that against, let these buildings fall in the ocean. I think that's a bigger mess.
I'm not saying do nothing is the solution, but
Well, you
I'm
know what?
just trying to look at the bigger picture.
I'm
long-term.
agreed. I agree that we will do that. But remember how Einstein, defined insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I mean, Round Dune for the last decade has been placing sand in front of this. They have spent, by my estimation, almost $500,000 in the last 10 years placing sand, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 yards at a time. Their back is up against the wall now. To go back and do that and think that it's going to work when the situation is worse today than it's ever been before, I don't think that's reasonable.
But I also just asked, have you considered the moving back of those structures along with all that replacement of sand?
And I
it
will.
doesn't sound as if you have.
Well, we really haven't had time, but you asked me to do it by Monday, and so I'll endeavor to get that done and give you an analysis.
Aaron, can I have one question?
Sure.
Shinnecock Inlet to this point,
Mm-hmm.
the beach is in as poor, situation as it's been in my lifetime. What is, say, a half a mile down the beach to the east and then further points towards the inlet? Is this a hot spot that's undulating down and it's going to get worse? Or is it something that's going to, eventually heal itself? Because I've seen Mermaid, Tiana Beach, east of Tiana Beach, you guys did a dune restoration. So is this I know it's an ongoing problem. It's been like this for decades. There's been houses in the ocean, 200 feet in the ocean. Is this something that you're just buying time temporarily? And or is it something you're hoping the FIMS project, which I believe was around since 1960, and it's, it's almost, I'm going to say 60 years old, still hasn't been accomplished. And we're always wishing on this FIMS project, wishing on it. Is this something that we're hoping that will happen? And if it doesn't happen, anything that's placed there is going to decimate the beaches west of here?
All right, a lot of questions in there, so I think 3. Yes, it's an undulating shoreline. There are stretches along here where the beach is in good shape. Just go to Dolphin Lane. You can actually drive down onto the beach, and that's, 500 feet away? And so the shoreline does undulate, and that undulation does move to the west. Unfortunately, it's unpredictable how fast it goes from one spot to the other. And I, for one, will not make a prediction as to what this beach is going to look like in a month, 6 months, or a year. I simply don't think that that's a prudent prediction, number one. Number two, we're not hoping that FIMP is going to solve it. The design for FIMP will address this issue and will solve this issue. The report is in the headquarters at the Army Corps. It needs what's called a chief's report. I have actually spoken directly to the chief of engineers, and he tells me he's going to sign it. I think what he said when his staff said, well, general, there are some people on the vertical decision team that have questions about this report, and his response verbatim was, yeah, but I'm pretty sure I'm at the top of the vertical decision team. So this report, the chief's report, is going to get signed, and then there's going to be project participation agreements that the town itself will become a partner in, because there are areas along the shoreline, county-owned, town-owned, and within the town's ECD that are all going to become partners in this project. And I think 2021 is a reasonable time frame, and I think what's happening at Shinnecock Inlet is putting a fine point on how vulnerable this area is. As far as, devastation to the downdrift side, my answer is I can't predict what's going to happen. I can tell you that if we don't protect these foundations, it's my opinion that these buildings are going to fall right down onto the beach, into the Atlantic Ocean. I mean, you have this deck that's out here is a modern designed, built structure where the pilings are driven to the FEMA required depth, and it's sitting in the surf zone and collapsing. These buildings were built in 1960. We have no idea how deep the piles are or what condition. You can look at some of the pilings. They're creosote pilings. The condition is very poor on them. Very easy for me to say that this is imminent threat of collapse. So could there potentially be some damage on the adjacent shorelines? Yes. Can't deny that it potentially could happen. If we get lucky and these structures go in and we don't get too many bad storms and the beach rebuilds itself, which we know it will in the spring, then we're going to get through it. But the alternative here of doing nothing or doing something that is ineffective, you don't put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. You go in and you pull the bullet out and you seal that shut, and that's what we need to do here.
Well, you're going to try and put obviously more sand to get that slope right to try and mitigate that downdrift scour. You're going to.
Oh yeah, we're
so
definitely.
You're not just putting these things in and throwing caution to the wind. You're
No.
going to design these to mitigate against that, and then it's going to have a replenishment schedule on there. Obviously,
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Right?
we've got how many yards do we have in for the cover, Bill? Do you remember?
Something like 15,000 yards
Altogether.
Because the whole key on this is the maintenance. Sand is a sacrificial; it's moving
Right.
all the time. So you want to.
Yeah.
My understanding, you want to have protection for those foundations, and then you want to have that sand on the outer side to take that hit when the storm does come, and then do the best job you can at mitigating any down.
We have
scouring.
you might be able to see easier on the handouts you have, but if you look at the cross section, we're putting thousands and thousands of yards of sand in front of the structure. We're not just placing the structure out there. I think that's a really, really important. So all of the sand, which costs a lot of money, is going to be liberated to nourish those downdrift beaches.
Do you have an engineer's report as far as the status of the buildings right now?
No.
And if you did, I'm assuming you're going to furnish us with that. And would it be more prudent of you to put pilings underneath there and shore it up that way, and then put the sand in front of it and not put the geo cubes in?
If you want us to evaluate it, we will. I don't think so. It's my opinion.
He's got a timing issue. They've got a timing issue.
I think everybody in that beach has a timing issue, and
Yeah.
what we do here is going to cause a downdrift or an updrift, effect. And I can see, looking at that last photo there, the beach is pretty much there is no beach at high tide. It's the dunes. So whatever you put there is going to cause, on either side of that structure, once it becomes washed away on either side, it's going to stick out and it's going to cause a lot of damage.
Well, actually, I've been down there about 20
Potential.
times in the last 2 weeks, and absent a storm event, there is a beach at high tide. But during a storm event, there's no beach anywhere down here and for
No,
miles in each
All bets
direction.
are off in a storm event.
But there is definitely a high tide beach. It's about 15 feet wide. I've been down there, more times than I care to count.
So have I.
So we ask you you've asked us to do a couple of things. I got them in my head. There's only 4, so I'm good, then I can remember that. and ask you to advance this forward to Monday, and we'll supply the information both that the board has asked for.
And once you get beyond us, what is the next step as far as permitting?
We have to go to the town of Southampton. They have an emergency procedure, as I described earlier. They have a 5-day response time, and
Okay.
then the DEC has a 2-day response time.
And so have you heard anything specifically back from the DEC as far as this project? I'm sorry I wasn't at the...
No, that's fine. No, we haven't had any specific feedback. I did talk to Eric Starr about this, and I told him, listen, it's pretty serious. He went down and looked at it himself. We meet the emergency criteria that the state has established, but we won't know their decision until we make our application. But I'm very confident that they're going to issue this.
Well, can you please make sure our environmental analyst has all that information, too?
I definitely will.
It's important.
Did you have any questions?
Anybody else have any questions? All right. You good then? Thank you, Aaron.
Well, thank you.
They've already done.
Are we advancing this?
You should.
I think we should advance it, but
He's got some things to supply.
there's some things that have to be, questions that have to be answered, and I'm going to reach out to Marty Shea, the Chief Environmental Conservation on the town, and because I've had several conversations with him prior to this, and when Aram had called me the other day, I had a conversation. So I want to keep Marty into the loop, and so that we're all on the same page here. Because what happened, I think, Aram, correct me if I'm wrong, are you going to go for a permit from Marty after this also?
Yes.
So, yeah, it's important that we have a...
Yeah, everybody's going to get the same paperwork.
Yep. So I believe I'll ask Marty to come in on Monday's meeting
Good.
and furnish us with any information as far as himself and the town that we need for the review.
That's good.
Okay, terrific.
So we'll advance to Monday.
Yep.
Continue the conversation after the holiday.
Thank you, Howard.
Not
All mine are done, it's up to Bill's.
It's up to Bill's?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the next list. So we're not gonna put that
How can I do this?
come up with whatever, like,
He's my committee.
for the full board.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Okay, so, next application is for David Betts, 7 Helens Lane in North Sea. The applicant is, and I'm representing Trustee Pell in this, as he's not here today. Applicant is seeking to construct a floating dock assembly comprised of 2x4 set of steps, 4x55 fixed elevated catwalk with open grate decking supported on 6-inch pilings, 3x3 hinged ramp, 6x20 floating docks secured by 2 8-inch diameter pilings with chocks at 2.5 feet above creek bottom. The assembly extends approximately 28 feet from the low water mark. The creek width is approximately 101 feet at this spot. The overall length of the assembly is 76 feet. Chemically treated lumber will not be used. All fasteners will be hot dipped galvanized or similar non-corrosive fasteners, and top of the catwalk will not be more than 28 inches above high water.
Compliant.
Mr. Behrens, you're here, I'm sorry. Did you want to speak on behalf of this?
No, that sounds about the size of it.
Is there anything you want to explain?
I can't speak from there, Sean, but does this meet Blue Book?
The only request that we had, Trustee Pell had, was for them to put the project on the hydro survey, just to make sure
This
that
one right here.
Yes.
So we know it's similar to, so we know where it lays out on the other docks.
Right, and then you could see the distance across from the
Which I'm not sure if I
shoreline.
can
So.
get Mr. Fox to do that necessarily, but I can certainly ask.
You have to.
Yes.
Sorry.
Just state your name for the record.
Sure, Sean Barron for the applicant. I'm not sure I can get Fox to do that, but I have the surveyor who's going to put it on the
Yeah,
survey.
we've asked this before, so this is something that's
Can you do that before the next meeting?
I was hoping to get it done by today, but when's meeting's Monday?
Monday.
We could
Yes,
try.
Tom.
I mean,
So we'll put it on for Monday, and if you have all the stuff furnished, it'll go on for the meeting. If not, we'll
We
just
bounce
hold
it.
it off.
Because if it
Okay.
meets the blue book, it's just a matter of paperwork.
Yes, sir.
See if you can get
Yep.
it done.
cool.
Where's the channel? Okay. Because the length to the length to the channel, like the amount of room that's left for,
Well, he's going to have to put it here to specifically cite it on here.
right, so it's gonna be really close to the channel.
Well, it's less than a third, so
It meets the blue book. You can't,
it's
it
a
meets the
third,
blue
a
book.
third, and a third.
That's
So
why we want to make sure that it's on the paper showing that
specifically,
So that'll,
specifically.
so when the Bay
Because it is
Constable,
close.
when the Bay Constable does the inspection, he'll bring this with them, and they can use that to cite it.
okay.
Okay.
If it meets it, it meets it.
Thank you.
That's it?
Is the survey going to be sufficient, or you need it specifically on the hydrographic
On
one?
the hydrograph.
I mean, I've never asked Fox
Well-
to do that, nor is it a
What do you got,
survey.
Trustee?
If he has the shoreline on the survey, I think that'll be fine.
Okay.
Because, you know, you still have a certified shoreline, certified survey.
Right.
Simple survey. It just doesn't have the shoreline on the
Can you
other
do that,
side.
Sean?
So if he has,
Yes.
the shoreline on the opposite side,
On the
which the distance is across.
Okay.
That'll be fine, it's a survey. It's a
All right, then we'll have the
certified
points marked then.
survey. As long as the depth measurements and, you know, all that's on there.
Right.
I
Yep.
think that's fine, if you can't get it on.
Can you do that, Sean?
Yes, that was the plan.
Okay,
Please, thank you.
thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.
Thank you.
You too. I've got, yeah, I know. I got one, 216 Redwood Road LLC, 216 Redwood Road, Sag Harbor. This is a bulkhead that's been repaired in Sag Harbor. And it was as-built. She was under the impression that she didn't need a permit from us. I had a conversation with her, and she happily came in, and now we have a permit for this structure.
Okay. This is the one you and I had discussed.
Correct.
Probably during the summer, right?
Yep.
And they put the tongue and groove plastic behind the
Yep.
bulkhead. So. And we had originally permitted the bulkhead, the original
Originally, we
bulkhead.
issued a
Yep.
permit, I found, which I explained to her. But I have the next door account, which is always wet. This is sometimes wet. There's a lot of vegetation in front of it.
Well, they're very lucky because over the last 20 years, the shoreline vegetation has actually grown up there. Prior to that, it was pretty sparse.
Correct.
All right.
So I'd like to advance that if we could.
All right.
Meets blue book.
Is there a way to, this is Spartina alterniflora and maybe Spartina patens, is there a way to do the work without?
It's already done,
It's done on the back side.
on the backside only.
They put the tongue and groove
Right.
behind the bulkhead.
Okay,
They left the original creosote bulk there because the tongue and groove plastic has no, it'll flex, yeah.
Strength.
okay,
It has no
okay. Oh, sorry,
Very-
I didn't understand that.
No, she's not.
movable. So the old bulkhead is actually gonna hold up the new bulkhead, but the new bulkhead's gonna not allow anything to go through the old
So we're
bulkhead.
advancing
Okay.
that, Bruce?
Please.
Thank you.
Next one I got is 8 John Street. LLC, 8 John Street, Village of Sag Harbor. This is install a ramp and construct a 4 by 25.5 fixed dock. Install 2 kayak pad board racks on a dock. Install a ladder at the seaward end of the dock. Move phragmites and rubble as needed and restore the area with installation of native plantings. Please see the accompanying documents.
Is anybody here to represent? Oh, you are?
Come right up to the podium.
Sir.
State your name for the record, sir.
Sure. Taylor Sturm from B. Lang Associates
Thank you.
on behalf of the applicant.
If I missed any points, you can pick right up on it.
That sounded great. If there's any questions, I'm happy to. This actually isn't my project per se. I'm just happen to be covering for.
Yeah, I was looking for a Dana.
Yeah, Dana. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Your planting schematics here, are you gonna have some kind of path that's through here?
No,
Or you remove
the dock should be illustrated on that plan.
Which it is right here, but it goes from,
Right. Oh, so that dock will be over. That's why there's not any bushes or
Okay.
or grasses illustrated where that dock
so
is.
it's gonna be higher than what's...
It will be. There should be a cross section too that.
This is in that little canal
All right, there it is, I got it here.
Yep.
feeds out upon.
Yep, yep.
Right over the top.
Yep, right over top. And it's light penetrating decking.
60%,
So
yeah.
it'll grow fine there, it's a good project. Chris, is there any need for pass and repass steps over this dock?
No.
Or is it,
None.
okay,
You're not gonna get nobody in there. And if you let somebody try walking in, they're gonna break their necks on the rocks that stick out of the
no, I know.
ground.
Yeah.
The old culvert and everything. that's
Right,
there.
and the culvert's right there.
Yep.
And with removal of Phragmites, what's the usual protocol?
You're up on this.
Our plan is basically just to do what the DEC has said that we should do, which is cut it, maybe 3 times or so in the growing season, and just kind of hope it dies out that way.
And that you're allowing for the natural plants then to grow up?
There really isn't that much now in that area where the Phragmites is, so our plan is to plant.
It's re-veg.
Yeah, exactly, or
Okay.
vegetated. Per that there's one of those sheets there.
And
Yeah.
one of the pictures at the end of this, which is definitely agreeable with me, to get all that concrete out. They threw concrete in here, in this area in here, to save that.
Mhm.
So they're gonna remove that and put the natural vegetation in there.
Yeah, so it's a really good project.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just one thing that is maybe not illustrated on that plan, but it was in the project description is the kayak racks. I don't know why it's not on the plans we submitted to the town, but I have.
It's in this one. Install 2 kayak.
It's just not on the
paddleboard
plans,
racks.
I mean. I have a copy of the plans that were stamped by the DEC if you just want to see where the kayak racks are going to go.
And we would need those on our plans
That's what I
too.
figure, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll get
So
them
that
Can
to
you
you.
give me a
As,
copy of that plan before
Yeah.
Monday?
I can give you a copy right now
Okay.
if you just want to look at it.
Can you give it to this
No,
young
we want
lady?
to put it into the,
We need to put it
Paper.
to the file.
Right, and these aren't stamped either because they went to the DEC. They don't, they don't require the engineer stamp.
Is that okay, James?
It's 2 kayaks, which I think is still per your regs. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna advance that one?
yes.
Yep.
We're good on that one, Bruce.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
too.
And to you.
My next one is Matthew Lucas, 38 Bayview Drive East, Noyak, Suffolk County, Suffolk Environmental Consultant. This is in Bay Point. You're up,
Okay.
sir.
How are you guys and girls?
Oh, I've been better, but you know,
Wow. Hopefully this will be short. James, a pleasure.
as usual.
And that,
Always a pleasure.
This owner proposes to remove the existing dock and construct a new docking facility constructed of one fixed elevated catwalk, 4 foot by 33, supported by 14 timber pilings, 8x8, utilizing open grate decking, 2 hinge ramp, 3.0 wide by 15 long. Floating dock is 6 wide by 20, secured by 4 timber pilings, 8x8, and 4 2-tile dolphin pilings, 8.0 off the easterly side of the floating dock. All materials will be non-treated, all hardwood be hot dipped. You're up.
Okay, standard reconstruction. The only change we're doing is when you went after the site. Oh, sorry, Matt Ivins, Suffolk Environmental.
Perfect, thank you.
When you these Lambert end of the catwalk, it flares out to I think more than 4 feet. So that was the original construction. That's going to be, narrowed down to the proper 4 feet. I don't have my plans with me, but let me just see. Oh, that's survey. I don't think I should have put a note in there for open grate. That's through flow.
It is.
Okay.
It's in the window.
So right now it's decking. Yeah, it's a typical.
It says
timber decking.
utilizing open grate decking
Yeah.
in the project description.
So we're going to
Plans.
reconstruct it. We're hoping to bring it into more compliance. That's pretty much it. It's gonna. It's gonna be. I believe it's gonna be slightly longer by a couple feet. I believe than what's out there now. If I remember. Again, I don't have my file with me. I apologize.
Meet the Blue Book? Meets the Blue Book?
Yeah, in terms of the extension and
the total length of it then.
It should be on the plan. And again,
James, you looked at it, totally in compliance with the Blue Book?
No, but, okay, if he's gonna extend it by a few feet, we need to know.
No,
No,
it's
He's
already on.
saying that what's built there it's going to be longer, but it still meets the Blue
it's
Book.
still gonna
Okay.
be the Blue Book.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds good.
It's just longer than what's actually there.
Right, but it
And-
meets all the criteria.
And
Yeah.
there's enough water there.
Yep.
There's 2.5 feet, and there's 400 feet
Oh, yeah.
across too.
It's
Oh, yeah.
wide.
The,
Yeah, you got
other-
a distance.
Redwood.
And also,
It's
the-
within like the pier line of everybody else too.
right,
So no extension of the dock past the neighbors.
right. This
No, I'm
house.
familiar with the area. One question, the fence that you have on the property,
Mm-hmm.
how are we gonna get past and repass there, Bruce?
What do you want to do? We could do.
Okay.
They got
Couple
a
feet.
glass fence.
That's going to
literally.
be removed at some point anyway because we're going through with Marty Shea on something else.
Okay.
So they're going
They-
to,
they
Marty's going to
can't
create a
have
buffer anyway back
Yeah,
there.
You can't
So,
have
I
a
was gonna
fence.
ask for
So-
a buffer.
so that's the thing. Yeah.
You can't
I
have
was working into that too.
Can't have a
Okay.
fence, so you would have a buffer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a glass
Yeah.
fence.
The fence is. They're going to redo a fence. It's going to be 40 feet back from the bulkhead.
Okay.
That's going to be nothing's right now. Solid on that, but I don't know how you guys want to work it.
Well, I'd like to see the fence removed because for pass and
You want to do
repass.
like a little note on the plans?
Yeah.
Okay.
It needs,
I like to see a buffer.
Well, you're gonna have a 40-foot wide buffer. I know I don't have anything concrete to give you guys, but they're gonna do some work on the house. Marty's already come back with a staff report requiring a 40-foot buffer.
But
I can
that's-
provide you that.
could you provide
Yeah,
us that so we can put it
I'll
in?
provide you guys
You know, why
that.
don't we
Thank
hold,
We have a planting plan already in the works, so.
yeah, can we hold this until we get everything together so we can?
I don't think he's in a rush. We got everything else
Yeah.
out and we're waiting.
Then you're
so.
gonna make it a really good project.
Okay.
Because the buffer
A
would
really
make a difference.
good one.
Yeah, no,
It wasn't good already.
I like buffers.
All right. What?
What? It's a
Right
clear
on top of the
glass
bulkhead.
fence there.
It's like a gate,
No, it's glass.
kind of.
It's
It's
like
a
right
whole-
on
it's a
top
whole-
with a lawn end. There's a bulkhead.
She's got young kids,
Yeah.
and you don't want the kids to fall off the bulkhead.
I have a question. Can Mr. Ivins give us a quick rundown on Baycrest while he's here, or no?
Oh,
Do you know
I'm not
anything?
really. James has told me not to even
We've been
talk
down
about
at
it.
Baycrest.
Oh,
Baycrest
yeah.
is moving. They got
For the record.
the Baycrest project.
Scott's been there every twice a week.
Been there quite regularly. They're
Maybe at some point we could do that.
That's horrible.
they're making their way.
I'm sorry, Robert.
Just-
I'm doing as fast
They
as I
finally
can.
got a. They finally
We
got a
could do it,
supplier
we could
for
do
We
it.
can keep them here if you'd like me to.
And they've done this-
I
they've
could
done
ask
the
him another
dredging
dozen
down there.
questions.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, yeah. I could build a scale model
Wait
right
till after
now.
the
Robert, is that
holiday,
okay?
like
With,
some pictures or
you want to
something.
ask your wife?
Materials out in the truck.
Yeah, you probably do. Those are your Legos, though. That keeps you out of trouble.
Okay, so are we,
I'm sorry.
are we,
So I will provide you guys with Marty's resolution for the buffer. I will put a note on the plans that says the glass fence is going to be removed. And that's about it, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that should be good.
And you can, it doesn't. We're waiting on everybody else, so it's not a big deal if it's not on for Monday.
It met Blue Book. You just have to deal with the pass and repass issue on the
Yeah.
fence.
Yeah.
It's an approvable project.
Okay. I'll give you that stuff probably next week.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll stay up for the next one, or
Sure.
I've got one more. And
Yeah.
this was already approved at one time, and we were trying to do the dock to the lower side. We couldn't get it to the lower side. Correct, James?
Yeah.
And so nothing's changed on it. It's just going to be a 4-foot high a ramp going out. Everything else was approved. We tried to keep it down, and they waited. So it was nice of them to wait. And now they're putting into what the DEC is making us do.
Army Corps?
Yep.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
This is good to go.
Good to go.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good Thanksgiving.
You
You
too.
too.
Thank you, Matt.
What's that? It's up to Robert. Robert, you want to handle the next job as well? Or do you really have to go?
Okay, so, I am, nobody's here from Michelle's Permit Service. This is project for Tom Rosenfeld, 44 Basket Neck Lane in Remsenburg. This is a bulkhead replacement where existing 244 feet of bulkhead with return is to be removed and replaced in current location with shore guard vinyl sheathing, green heart lumber, framing and structure. Proposed bulkhead and decking shall not be located further seaward of existing. We're going to remove 244 linear feet of existing wood walk and replace 112 linear feet with 4-foot wide walkway. All wood to be untreated, will not contain any chemical wood preservatives, and they're installing 360 cubic yards of clean beach sand in the 10-foot buffer area adjacent to the new walkway and bulkhead, and the buffer will be native salt-tolerant vegetation that's no mow, no irrigate, and no fertilize. We did ask for the wood walkway to be reduced so it is not the entire length of the 244-foot bulkhead. It is rather about 50% of the of the length of the bulkhead, therefore permitting more of a buffer.
That's good.
James, do you want to add anything?
No, we've been back and forth with Michelle on this. I think it actually was on for a work session at one point, and you guys had discussed it, and there were some changes that to be made. So it's a good project now. She reduced the size of the boardwalk, as you said, increased the buffer. Everything else meets regulation.
Is there any reclamation dredging going on with this project?
No.
Was not stated. No.
Not stated.
Well, they didn't. They're not proposing it, so no.
Do you think we need to ask?
A lot of times when they're doing a
Yeah,
total
but
tear
that-
out of a bulkhead.
Yeah, it's not in canal, so it's actually an open waterfront, so
Should not have to do it.
shouldn't have to do it. There's no reason, because you got a dock that goes off there.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to do it.
So
I would like to get that. That way if the neighbors call up because someone's dredging, it's on the application.
Yes.
You don't have an issue.
No, I think
It
it's
wasn't stated that they were doing that. So
So-
if they do it, then they're in violation.
violation.
They should get a
I got you.
violation.
Okay, we went back and forth several times, so I'm in favor of this at this point. If
I think it's a good
Meets
project.
Blue Book.
if you
Yeah.
all are,
Looks like they got quite a few geese in the area too, by that decking there.
Meets regulations.
Yeah,
So-
free fertilizer.
if you all are in favor of
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
moving forward.
Good.
Okay. Next project is Kent and Catherine Browning, A&R, December 1st. This is 1 Apicook Point Road, or Point Lane in West Hampton. The applicant proposes to reconstruct 280 linear feet navy bulkhead in place of existing with vinyl sheathing, and reconstruct existing 23-foot return in place of existing on the north end of the property, also with vinyl, to connect to adjacent property to the south with corner connectors, to raise the height of the bulkhead 6 inches to match the neighbor to the south. Also to reconstruct in place a 4 by 52-foot catwalk with through-flow decking, green heart pilings, icebreaker pilings, existing 3 by 12-foot ramp and 60 by 20-foot float will remain. Should the existing ramp and float be stored seasonally? Ramp and float will be stored in upland location. That needs to be reworked because these are seasonal ramp and floats, right? So this language needs to be reworked. The existing ramp and float will be stored seasonally and in upland location, not within the area of vegetation.
What does it say?
It says, should existing ramp and float be stored seasonally?
No, it should be.
You wanna hold it?
So should you just take out should it be?
Yeah.
They have to-
Ramp and float to be stored seasonally. So instead of saying should existing, ramp float to be stored seasonally?
Okay.
I think,
I don't think she'll have a problem with changing that.
okay.
When do we?
So we'll advance it pending receipt of a corrected copy?
Yeah, I think that's fine. That's she
Yeah.
won't have a problem. That's
Wednesday,
easy.
this town hall is closed Thursday and Friday, we gotta.
Is there not an indented boat slip on this
She's-
property?
There is. So I
Why
didn't
can't they
finish.
store this ramp and float in that boat slip?
I don't know if it's wide enough,
I'm trying, is it 6 or 8 feet that this, I can't,
and it's very shallow.
oh,
It's kind of filled in, but,
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
no,
you know,
that's a good,
make their work a little bit less.
That's a
I
suggestion.
can't see the it's 24, but I don't know if it's 6 or 8 because it's so small. If it's 8 feet, it'll fit in there.
we could ask for that.
I don't, do they have a
This
dimension?
is a Gina. I'm not sure why she's not here today, but we could certainly ask her or suggest that to her.
If it's
There's
8
no-
feet, if it's 8 feet by 24, you can put it tight in there.
It doesn't say how wide that is,
It looks like a 6 or 8.
so it could slide right in there.
If it's 8 feet, it would work. If
I
not,
don't
they'd
know.
have to start some results.
There's an extensive buffer here that is already existing, so that would be a good solution if that were possible. So we need to inquire about the storage of the float, or if it will be stored upland of the buffer, or just change that language.
Well, I don't think it'll be a problem for her to change the language saying that it has to be stored upland and not
Yeah.
the should part of it. She could easily change that. I don't see
Okay.
a problem with
Advance
that, but I don't know what she's going to think about putting in, in the boat slip, or if
It's a
she's
suggestion.
bound to keeping it in the boat slip, or just putting it upland, in her driveway or whatever. I don't know if that's really necessary, but it's up to you guys. So for the minor change, I think she'll be fine with it, but I don't want to speak for her about the other stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to hold it or what.
I mean, you can just hold it and ask her. I mean, do you think we can get a response by Monday?
Wednesday,
Wednesday? Sorry.
that's pushing it.
Like I said,
Wednesday's
for the minor change, I think she'll be
Yeah,
okay with it. But
Why don't we hold it?
where she's actually storing it,
I think you need to
No.
hold this application and have a conversation with
Yeah.
the applicant's agent, because you have too much unanswered question here.
Yeah.
it's up to you guys.
That's fine.
That, and she can have a conversation with the applicant too. Maybe the applicant doesn't want to put it there. Right?
Are we holding it in?
Please.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
You have another discussion yet, President Warner? Oh, your 2020 fee
The
schedule.
Fees.
Yes,
So I was going to get to that. We were waiting for you to come.
yes.
I don't know what Bruce and Ann.
I have looked at this, and I think I've asked everybody on the board to look at it also. Some of the fees, we change year to year. Some of the fees we don't change in a very long time. So the ones that are in red are ones that, have been proposed for the 2020 proposed fee. I don't know if everybody's okay with it or has any, comments, but I'd like to move this forward so we can adopt it for, for 2020.
Did you want to elaborate at all, just for the public's edification?
Sure.
On
Actually, the one of the fees actually went down. The EMS and fire department suggested it was a $30 fee to $15, and also the ramp fee from $30 to $15. Mooring permit modification would be the next line. We do issue mooring permits, and usually the boat goes specifically with that mooring. When people rent boats, they get multiple boats during the summer, so we would have to modify that application, the permit to accommodate the new boat. So we're looking to charge $25 for that. And in a personal watercraft, the same thing, for $25 for the, to work in the office. A temporary resident, personal watercraft, lift, float, hoist would go from the current, which is $250 to $300. And then the personal watercraft lift, float modification fee, which is done pretty regularly in the office. We hadn't charged, we're looking to charge $25 for housekeeping work on that. The beach events application fee would go from $300 to $400, and then the late fee would go from $300 to $400. And then any beach permit modifications fee would be a $50 fee, which there was none previously. Dock slips for the residents in the town were $45. We're looking to raise it to $55.
Do you want to talk about why?
Because some of the facilities that we have now are brand new facilities, and they're much cheaper than any of the other marinas, and actually the town marinas. It's actually less than half even at $55. And I think just for us to be able to do new projects, which were entered into the Baycast project, bulkhead, ramp, and some dock slips there, which will be all new slips with dredged out, so they'll be they're not going to have water or electric, but they'll be brand new slips. That way we can get some more revenue in order to do some more of the projects. I believe Bay Avenue is the next one that's being looked at in East Quogue. That's a launching ramp and a commercial pier. The cost of these projects are usually between $500,000. So raising our fees slightly would help eventually pay for some of these newer facilities, or work towards paying for them.
Yeah, and more recently, Little Neck needs another $10,000, $16,000 for the electric to be completed at the Little Neck.
And we're putting electric at Little Neck so that we can put ice heaters in there. We removed the earthen pier and put a floating dock, a T-shaped floating dock. So we will need to facilitate ice heaters. So if we get a bad winter, the poles don't float up and the docks don't get broken up. So and then we're going to put lights down there for the parking lot, and one light on the dock, right, Bruce? And they're going to be dark sky compliant lights, and that's for public safety when people are coming in at night, so they can get on and off their boats safely. The next suggested fee raise would be general permit, and it would be for the commercial marinas, boatyards, etc. for applications for go to $1,000, and then the commercial general permit as built. That's if something is built without a permit, that would be for $2,000.
And
Reason for that is because we don't get any revenue other than these initial, applications into the office. Many of the marinas that are in open water are on our bottom. We hold it in trust for the public, and I feel, or the board feels, that we should get some more money for these marinas, being that they're making revenue off of our properties.
so prior to this suggestion,
It was regular. It would be just as a regular application fee. So it would be, which is $500. So it would be double the $500 fee for the residential dock versus a commercial dock. And then the others would be commercial permit modification amendment for $800. Renewal application fee, which is I believe it's $400 for residential, so it'd be double that for commercial. And then boathouses, decks, and other pilings that are on our bottoms and cover up the water would be for $10. Commercial general bulkheads would be $12 a linear foot. Commercial permits, walkways, ramps, and catwalks would be $10 per square foot, I believe. Commercial general permits, dredging, spoils, and stuff like that would be $30 for commercial. Commercial general permit for floating docks would be $10 per square foot. The commercial permits allow much larger square footage and dimensions of the floats to accommodate safety for commercial facilities. And then a commercial general permit, jetty, revetment, and riprap would be $12 per linear foot. Commercial general permit for pilings would be $40 per piling for putting them in the ground and for tying off for the docks. And then commercial general permit sand fencing. I don't know if we're going to change this one. It was a suggestion. I know it's not a commercial. Very few people, if any, do commercial permits for sand fencing. It's more residential, and it does have a public benefit. It does allow the beaches to help be built up by use of the sand fencing. So that's one of the things that I have a question about. And then a general permit, stairs and steps would be $10 a square foot, but I don't know if we're going to go with that on a residential. It was just for the commercial facilities because they do, again, have over our bottom or on our bottom. And then commercial general permit, steps and stairs linked to another structure that would be basically dock to dock or off a bulkhead would be $10. These are all the proposals for 2020 for the proposed fee change. So if we want to move it forward to the meeting and adopt it, or if anybody has any questions or issues, more than welcome to bring it up for discussion.
Did Trustee Powell have any questions? that
Billy isn't here, so I would like to ask him, being that he's on the board and he's going to be voting for this. I think he should have input. So I believe we should.
Put it on for the next work session if you'd
I
like.
think you should, because I think Bill should be able to
We
opine.
could,
Yes.
Let him
Right.
opine.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
put it on for the December 11th work session, and then if you,
Yep.
the last meeting of the year will be December 16th.
That's fine.
so
Yeah.
And that still gives enough time
Absolutely.
Gives
so
enough
that
time
you...
for
Yes,
the
it does.
staff to implement it and to govern and do all the
Yeah.
change.
We started this process months earlier than we did last time, so we could
Yes,
get,
we
feedback, and we had time to play with it, so I think
Give Bill
it's,
the opportunity. I mean, he's probably home watching the meeting. He could send you an email,
Yep.
what he's for, what he's not for,
Yep.
whatever. He could
It's
let
fair.
you know. This way he has the ability to provide input.
exactly, I agree. So we'll do that, we'll hold it over to the next work session.
It's great, though, that you started it earlier this year.
Well, historically, we would wait 10 years to change some of these fees, and then it becomes a problem, so
Well, that's what happened last one.
I think we'll do it, keep it more current, and then it won't be such a big hit for everybody. It'll be fairer for us and fairer for the public. Does anybody else have anything else?
No, we could have a pretty long meeting.
Okay, so, like to close? Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jane, can you-